Welcome, Golden Bear fans, to Tell the Whole Damn World, the podcast for all things Cal. We're glad you're with us. I'm your host, Reza Serafinejad, and as the late, great Bud Dog Turner used to say, it's another great day to be a bear. Remember that if you're associated with the University of California, you're one of the luckiest people on this planet. Never forget that. It's the fourth week of 2025, and Ahmad Anderson and I have another great episode for you this week. Today, we're going to sit down and spend some time with the head coach of the Cal women's basketball team, Charmin Smith. We were fortunate enough to interview Coach Smith the day after Cal beat Stanford on the farm to complete the regular season sweep of the Cardinals. The first time that's happened since 1986. And in our segment about Cal history with Leslie Mitchell, we'll learn more about Cal alum Ed Roberts, a man who became synonymous with the disability rights movement and made a huge impact on the world, despite facing enormous obstacles as a severely disabled person. But before we get to all of that, let's briefly get up to speed on some Cal sports news. The number 7 Cal women's gymnastics team earned their first ACC victory after posting a 196.925 to beat number 24 Clemson at Haas Pavilion. The number 3 women's water polo team beat number 8 Long Beach State 16-11 at Speaker Aquatics. And the Cal women's basketball team beat Stanford at Maples Pavilion to improve to 18-3 this season, 6-2 in the ACC. They're now ranked number 19 in the country. And don't look now, but the Cal men's basketball team is on a 3-game winning streak after beating both Florida State and Miami at home. They're now 11-9 overall, 4-5 in the ACC. The Cal men's tennis team overpowered Texas Tech 6-1 in Santa Barbara. The Cal baseball team hosted their annual alumni game at Stu Gordon Stadium. And the Cal rugby team absolutely dominated Utah Valley and UC Santa Cruz in their 2025 home opener at Witter Rugby Field. In those two matches combined, Cal scored a total of 236 points and yielded nothing. Up next, we're going to sit down with Leslie Mitchell and get our weekly dose of Cal history. In this week's episode, we're going to learn about a remarkable Cal alum named Ed Roberts, a man who was a force behind the disability rights movement. Despite being told at seemingly every turn in his life that he couldn't do things, he did it all anyway, and truly changed the world for the better. Roberts was a man who became severely disabled as a young teenager, but with optimism and a sense of humor and a tremendous determination, he was unwilling to fade into the background and help the world see and recognize disabled people for the productive and capable human beings that they are. We're going to talk about that right now, and then it's on to our interview with Charmin Smith.
This week in Cal history.
Leslie Mitchell, Cal class of 1981, is a third-generation Cal alum and lifelong Cal fan. She was at Memorial Stadium in 1982 for the play. She writes articles about Cal sports history on her website, calbearshistory.com, and tweets about all aspects of Cal's history, as well as the stories of interesting students, faculty, and alums, under the name Cal Bears History. She's an absolutely incredible resource when it comes to interesting stories about people associated with our great university. Today, we're excited to learn more about an alum who made hugely significant contributions to society in the way of disabled rights and independent living. Ed Roberts. Welcome again to the show, Leslie.
Well, welcome, Reza. I appreciate the kind words, although they might be a little bit exaggerated. And I want to start off by noting that the day we're recording this is January 23rd, which happens to be Ed Roberts' birthday and is in the state of California officially recognized as Ed Roberts Day.
Wow. And so Ed Roberts, I mean, here's where I feel really bad, is that I have a number of disabled friends And I have always known that UC Berkeley has been at the forefront of disability rights, but I had never heard of Ed Roberts. And I feel shamed about that now after having learned a little bit more about him.
I have the same admission to make that I did not know of him until I started my Twitter account, and I was looking around for interesting Cal alums that I could tweet about, and I was absolutely astonished to learn about this man. I grew up in the suburbs of Sacramento in the 60s and 70s, and you never saw a disabled person. They were always excluded and kept out of sight. And when I came to Berkeley in 1977 to go to school, I was astonished at the number of disabled people there were in Berkeley. And remember, this was decades before the Americans with Disabilities Act existed. So it was still a novelty to see accessible places that and a city that made an effort to include the disabled. And I did not know at that time that it was because of Ed Roberts. And although I'm sure he would be the first to say not just Ed Roberts, but the people around him, the people he inspired and the groups around him that really pushed for it.
Yeah, I mean, he seemed like such an inspiring individual, despite being severely handicapped, that this man had such an amazing attitude toward life and just was not willing to accept being pushed to the side. And there was something in this story that you had shared with me, a Smithsonian article, about how when he was only at the age of 14, that he could overhear a doctor tell his parents that it would be better if he just were to die because he would be no more than a vegetable. And yet he lived this incredible life. And that's where we'll get into some of the stories, I guess, about what he did. But he just seemed to have such an attitude where he, instead of just feeling pity for himself, he had a lot of humor about things and how he approached things. I think that really helped in everything that he approached in life. Would that sound pretty accurate?
I think that's right. Yeah, he got polio back in the bad old days of polio in 1954. And at that time, that's when the doctor basically said, well, he'll just be a vegetable. And one sign of his humor is he later said, well, if I'm a vegetable, it's an artichoke because I'm prickly on the outside, but I got a big heart on the inside. And, the fact that he could make a joke about something so horrific as having overheard that comment as a child is pretty amazing. And I'd like to point out to the doctor that was one of the worst predictions ever made because Ed Roberts changed the world for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly did. And I mean, just when you read the stories that I've read now about him, I mean, in high school, he was originally denied being able to even graduate from high school because he couldn't pass a driver's exam. And that was part of what you needed, apparently, to receive a high school diploma back in that era. Well, I guess I should back up a little bit. When did he actually arrive at Cal? And he got both a BA, a bachelor's, and a master's at Cal. Is that right?
Yes, he did. He started at Cal in, I believe, 1962. He had been at the College of San Mateo before that. And it's kind of an interesting story about his admission because he just applied and he did not, again, there was no box to check about whether you're disabled or anything. So he did not indicate to anyone that he was disabled. He was admitted to Cal. And then the administration found out, and when we say disabled, he's a quadriplegic. So severely disabled. And the administration's first reaction, they tried to actually rescind his admission to Cal because they said, this is too much. We can't deal with this. And he wouldn't put up with that either. He insisted that he was entitled. He was a citizen of California. He met all the admission criteria. So by law, he had to be admitted. And there was a lot of negotiation back and forth. One of the problems, and it was a legitimate problem, was he had to sleep in an iron lung. And I'm sure younger people today will have no idea what an iron lung is. but it was this very large piece of mechanical equipment that weighs almost 1,000 pounds that helps a person breathe. He couldn't breathe normally because polio damaged his muscles that allow a person to breathe. So when he was out of the iron lung, he had to, and I don't really understand how this works, but there's some sort of a breathing method where you use your neck muscles and your face muscles to force air into your lungs, which can't be easy or pleasant. So at night, certainly, he slept in the iron lung, and they couldn't really put it in the dorms because it's almost 1,000 pounds. So there was a lot of discussion, and eventually what they did is they got a room for him at Cowell Hospital. And those of us who are a little older will remember that Cowell Hospital was the student health center, basically, back in our day, and it was located where the Haas School of Business is now, if I recall correctly. And he only agreed to that on the understanding that his portion of Cowell Hospital would be considered a dorm space and not considered a hospital space. So he would have all the rights of a dorm student. And so it was a little turbulent getting the admission process, but once he got on board, all of a sudden there were a bunch of other severely disabled students who took him that as a cue, and they also started applying to Cal.
Right. And then I mean, when he had graduated from Cal, after he graduated from Cal, he was the executive director for the what eventually became the Center for Independent Living.
That's true. That's true. But he actually that started when he was a student. And as I said, there were more disabled students, and they eventually took over like a wing of Cowell Hospital, and it became the Cowell Disabled Community area for the campus officially. And they, again, with a sense of humor, they nicknamed themselves the Rolling Quads for quadriplegic. And they made quite a sensation on campus because people weren't used to seeing disabled people in public. And secondly, they weren't used to seeing disabled people embrace their disability with humor and with pride, actually, for what they were accomplishing. So that group started advocating for more access to buildings because, as we know, there are a lot of steps and stairs cases and such at Berkeley. And so they started advocating for access. They started a group that eventually became known, let me get the name right, as the Physically Disabled Students Program at Cal, which was the first college program in the United States that was devoted to the needs of disabled students. And so from that eventually came the inspiration to start Berkeley Center for Independent Living. Yeah.
And then that ended up spawning countless other centers for independent living across the country, right?
Exactly. That was the first one, the first group like that. And then, of course, Berkeley being Berkeley, people were more willing to embrace something a little different and to understand the needs for all people to be recognized as full citizens. And so they started advocating for things that we now take for granted, like curb cuts on the streets, so that you could do something as simple as use a public street if you were disabled. And Berkeley was one of the first cities in the country to have curb cuts and other kinds of accessibility rules way before the Americans with Disabilities Act required it for the country.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing always to think that Berkeley's at the forefront of these types of things, and because of this one singular individual in particular. And I think that was the other thing, is he had mentioned with a manual wheelchair, it was not really possible unless he had an attendant with him.
Right.
And he would note that if he were in a social situation and talking to other people, that people would address the attendant instead of him, and made him feel like a bystander, like a non-entity, essentially.
Right.
And when he eventually was able to move to a motorized wheelchair, that made such a difference in his life, and just opened up other doors for him. And But to think that, because of him, he was able to really promote access, which disability rights are one thing, but without access, it means nothing, really. You need to have access in order to have rights.
He did, as you mentioned earlier, he did become the executive director of the Center for Independent Living in Berkeley, which, again, advocated for both rights and access, not only in Berkeley, but eventually all over the state, and the movement spread all over the country. Certainly in education. I mean, obviously there were many other people that were working for disabled rights at the time, but certainly within education, he was a true pioneer. There was never a school that had, before his time, that had the kind of access for severely disabled students that he got for Berkeley,
Right.
I would say.
Oh, so proud of him for everything that he accomplished in his time. And he lived to the age of 56, if I'm not mistaken, and he became a father.
Yeah.
He became a father, and I read some story too about how he swam with dolphins and rafted down the Stanislaus River. And I mean, what a go-getter. I just blown away by someone's attitude to just not be content to just settle for being told what you can or cannot do.
And it's interesting that when he and his wife ultimately divorced, he was given joint custody of his son, which, when you think about it, it seems perfectly normal a father would get joint custody. But in retrospect, I can't imagine that before his time, before the changes that he and those in his era made. You wouldn't have dreamed that a person who was quadriplegic would be given custody of a child.
Right.
So that in and of itself is a monument to what he accomplished. In 1976, the new governor of California, who's also a Cal alum, Jerry Brown, named Ed Roberts as the director of the California Vocational Rehabilitation Department. And what's particularly ironic about that is back before he had come to Cal, he had gone to that department and had sought assistance in finding work. And they told him he was too disabled to ever work, that he could never hold a job. And now he was the director, 15 years later, the director of that program, of that whole department. So, yeah, he never let anything get him down.
It's such a great attitude. I love it. And I love, I try to tell my 6-year-old daughter, it's like, you have nothing to complain about. You have nothing to complain about.
I'm sure she has plenty to complain about, she feels.
And it's your attitude and your effort that makes all the difference in everything in life, and your enthusiasm. And this guy had it in spades. And I'm so thankful to you, Leslie, for helping to shine a light on him today in this episode. And I guess, did you have any other little tidbits or anything else to share about him?
One of the poignant things, and I think you commented to me, you saw this in that article from the Smithsonian that I sent you, is when he died, one of his colleagues took his wheelchair to the Smithsonian Institution, and their first reaction was, you can't bring this here, you can't leave this here. But he left it there, and it's now part of the permanent collection of the Smithsonian, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, that's really, and to see that, when I read the article, I'll admit I kind of broke down in tears because it was so moving. But I'm a softie.
That's okay.
But hey, no, thank you so much here again, Leslie. And I got to say that, Ahmad likes to say it, but Berkeley is full of movers and shakers. And that would certainly be a great way to describe Ed Roberts. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you again so much, Leslie. We look forward to seeing you again next week, huh? Another
All right.
Story. Yeah.
Go
Great.
Bears.
Thank you so much. Go Bears. One last note on Ed Roberts that I feel is important. I keep thinking about how he was told over and over and over again throughout his life that he couldn't do things. And yet look at the life he led and the tremendous impact he had on the world. Never let anyone tell you what you can't achieve in life. And I firmly believe you'll be a better person if you make the time to read the Smithsonian Magazine article that you heard Leslie and me talking about. Simply Google Ed Roberts Smithsonian Magazine to find it. It's not a long read, but you'll gain a much deeper appreciation of who Ed Roberts was as an individual. Moving on to our main event. Joining me in a moment will be my co-host, Cal legend Ahmad Anderson. And together we will welcome our featured guest to the program, the head coach of the Cal women's basketball team, Charmin Smith. Charmin Smith is a graduate of Stanford University who earned both a bachelor's and master's degree in civil and environmental engineering. She holds the distinction of being the very first person who graduated from Stanford on Tell the Whole Damn World. Oh, and by the way, she also happened to be an extraordinary basketball player who took the Cardinal to 3 Final Fours. She's in her 6th year as the head coach of Cal's women's basketball team and has led the Golden Bears to an 18-3 record so far this season, including the program's first sweep of Stanford in 39 years after last night's win at Maples. Welcome to the show, Coach Smith, and congratulations on the win last night.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, we're just thrilled to have you here. And now, so you've been at Cal since 2007, and as our head coach since 2019. What is it about Cal that makes some of the best players Stanford has ever produced want to come and coach here?
Yeah, I don't know. There was just something about, watching from Palo Alto, seeing people in the East Bay doing their thing. I give a lot of credit to Devin A. Hampton, Ashley Walker, and Alexis Gray Lawson. I was coaching against them while I was at Stanford. And Lindsay Gottlieb was on staff with Joanne Boyle. And, Lindsay and I were friends. We hung out a lot. And hearing her talk about Dev and Ashley and the connection she had with them and how she knew the grandmas and, the family and all of that. And I was just like, what? I want that connection. I want that. And then you see Dev on the floor and she was just so dominant and powerful. And, I was like, I want to coach that. And so, they got me over to the other side. And I love the East Bay. I love living in the town. I live in Oakland, and it's the right fit for me. Stanford will always be home. I got to keep it real. But I like, being at Cal. It's a good spot for me.
No, well, we love having you here, and no, I can appreciate that. I mean, absolutely can't knock you. I mean, you're from Stanford, so that all makes perfect sense. But we're just very happy that you're on our side. How would you describe your coaching philosophy?
My coaching philosophy is really just trying to do everything I can to help my players become the best version of our authentic self. I talk about that a lot. And it really started with me embracing that and being my authentic self. And I've learned a lot of lessons through coaching through the pandemic and the transfer portal and NIL. And there are times when you get pulled at in ways that you feel like you might want to try to appease certain players. And I've learned to just not compromise who I am, because if you do that, then I think there's no way to success. And I think this recent success that we're seeing with our program is first because I'm being my authentic self, and that attracts players who then want to play for me and can be successful playing for me. And we have a tremendous group right now that allows me to just kind of get out of the way and let them shine and work their magic. And it's so cool to watch this group develop and grow into what we are right now.
Coach, first of all, I'm a big fan. You already know that. When you call and reach out for me to participate in the race for change, I'm there. I missed this last time because I was involved in some campaign activities. But I have to say thank you so much, and also apologize to you. Thank you for so much, because you were the first person that I received a congratulatory card for entering into, inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I opened it up and I was like, just overwhelmed. So much so that I picked up my phone and I dialed the number on the card, and phone rang, and you said, hello? I said, hey, Coach Smith, Ahmad Anderson. I know I'm probably catching you at a bad time, but I just won't keep you long. I want to say thank you so much for sending me the card. That means so much to me. I really appreciate it. You said, Ahmad, no problem. I enjoyed your speech. You really brought it home, and it resonated with it. I said, okay, Coach, have a good day and have a good weekend. I hang up the phone and I walk from the dining room to the living room, and my lady says, hey, babe, Cal's women's playing Notre Dame, like in about 15 minutes. I was like, what? But that tells me a lot about you. I said, Coach picked up the phone. I said, I was just talking to the coach, and I'm pointing at the TV. She said, no, you were to her. She picked up the phone in the midst of getting ready to play Notre Dame and answered my call. And so I thank you for that. And I'm a huge fan. And look, I want to ask you, being a huge fan that I am, we're in this race for change. As a DEI professional for over 25 years, you are an influential figure in the space of racial justice. Tell me a little bit about this organization, this theme, and what this means for you as a Black coach at Cal, and as a Black woman coach in this country, in this world.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I do think there's a lot of responsibility and obligation being the first Black female head coach at the University of California, Berkeley. And in the sport of women's basketball, there's a lack of representation of women of color in our sport at the head coaching position. And I do feel like I need to use my platform for social justice causes and things that are passionate to me. The Race for Change being one of them. It's something that started during the pandemic year. And it actually started at UCSD. Some coaches there got together for the women's basketball program, and they sent out a message on social media. We're going to do this Race for Change to raise money for any social justice cause within your community. And they challenged people to have their own 5K race in their communities to raise money. So, of course, I said, oh, yeah, we're in. And that year we did a 5K walk around campus, socially distanced with masks on, right? And we decided to give this money to our newly developed at the time DEIBJ office that's now run by Dr. Ty Douglas, because a lot of times DEI offices, it's usually a team of one with very few resources. And I didn't want Dr. Ty to be in that situation. It's a very important thing. We need to have an inclusive environment here at Cal and within our community. And so our DEIBJ office needs the resources to send, 30 plus students to the Black Student Athlete Summit, which we've done the past few years, to have the educational sessions and things that we have for our staff and our coaches here throughout the year. And so we've continued to do it. And now I don't know that other schools are doing it, but we're going to do it every year. And we had Dr. John Carlos, as you know, out at the Race for Change. And this most recent one, we had Gary Payton and Antonio Davis, who were, from the town, came and joined us as well. So it's something that I'm really passionate about. We've raised over $20,000 for DEIBJ causes at Cal, and hopefully it can continue to grow.
That is absolutely fantastic. And again, support you 100%. It is as much the differences, but the similarities that bring us together as one. And one of the things, as a guy who played football and at Cal, but also has done some coaching in my life, one of the things I speak about, especially in this world of the loyalty to the campus, the NIL, and we're not going to go down that path so deep, but the fact that you have earned your degree in engineering, the fact that you went to one of the other greatest universities in the world, and I don't hold it against you for Stanford. My son went to second oldest, went to Stanford and graduated from Stanford. Tell me how that resonates with you in inspiring your athletes to be all they can be on the court and in the classroom.
Yeah, I mean, when I was making my college decision, there was no NIL, there was no WNBA. So really, basketball was just a means to get the best education possible, and I thought I'd be done in 4 years. It was my junior year when the league popped up, and I was like, wait a minute now. I need to try this. We get to get paid to play basketball. I was fortunate enough to spend 3 years and some change playing in the W. But the decision to go where I went for college was all about what school will give me the best chance to get the best degree possible and maybe cut down some nets, right? And back then, Cal wasn't on the radar for women's basketball, so I was very limited. It was like Stanford, Tennessee, and Tennessee didn't meet my academic standards. So that's how I ended up on the farm. What I'd say for the women who are playing basketball right now is that degree is still the most important thing, because the salaries in the W are increasing and it's getting better and our sport is growing. And yes, you can get money in NIL, but there's no guarantee with basketball. If we didn't learn anything from the pandemic, right? There's just no guarantee. And this degree can open doors for you for the rest of your life. And so I really preach that to the people that we recruit and people that we have here. It's like, this Cal degree is something special. And, I love being at an elite academic institution. It matters. We're not making, the millions of dollars that Jaylen Brown is getting in the NBA. You go play in the W,
Yeah.
So you got to have that backup plan, and it's got to be a strong plan.
Thank you
Right.
so much. That's keeping it real to keep it right.
Absolutely. And I read that you are very into Muay Thai boxing. And what inspired you to learn that form of martial arts?
Yeah, I had a period around 8 or 9 years ago when I just was really struggling and needed to find something outside of work to get me feeling better. And I tried a few things. I started doing a lot of yoga classes. I was taking guitar lessons, and I stumbled in on a kickboxing gym that's right around the corner from my house, and was taking Muay Thai classes. And I was just like, I just want to sweat. I just want to get a workout. Like, leave me alone, And Coach Jay just kept coming up to me and be like, no, like, you're cheerleading, punching, keep your arms in, check your face, and kept giving me instruction and kept critiquing me. And I kept coming back and had really great community there with people who I really enjoyed being around, and they challenged me. And I just kind of fell in love with the sport of Muay Thai, the art of Muay Thai. And it's been something that's allowed me to continue to get outside of my comfort zone and remember what it's like to be that student athlete who's like afraid to use their left hand. It's like, I was afraid to spar and get hit. And then the first time you get hit, you're like, oh, that's not that bad. Okay. You get kicked in the stomach and you get the wind knocked out of you one time, but you get up and you keep playing and you keep fighting.
Right.
So
Right.
myself in those situations, remembering what it's like to be a student athlete, to get knocked down and to have to get back up and to be scared and to have to fight through fears, I think has helped me become a better coach. And I'm looking forward to trying to get my first amateur fight. I've had 4 PK, but hopefully my first amateur fight in June.
Okay. Hey, look, we're going to be in the front row. Well, I've been telling Reza already, we need to figure out a way to do this podcast live. So be camera ready. Be camera ready.
Okay.
I wanted to say that, talking about exactly what you mentioned right there, being a coach, you've got a team that's out of this world. I was a defensive back, and defense was everything to me. And like Bears, it's territorial. And so tell me about this year's team and describe the style of play. You talked about it. You can, you're in there. I've seen you there. I was at the Classic. You are present and intentional with everything you do. And then I see you go like this, and I watch the team, and I said, that must be a favorite hand signal. But tell me the style of play, because they rev it up, and they adjust, and they relax, and I'm watching you watching them. It's theatrical at best.
Yeah, this is a really up-tempo, high-octane offensive team. I think we lead the ACC in three-pointers made. We have 2 of the top 6 3-point shooters in the country in Lulu Twidell and Ioana Kermili. We've got Kayla and Martha who are shooting 50 and 44% from the 3. we can put the ball in the basket. You know, they've nicknamed Lou and Yo the Splash Sisters. I'm saying we got Splash Cousins too over here with Kayla and Martha, and then Michelle in the middle, really, really holding it down for us. Our defense gotten a lot better. That's allowed us to be able to be competitive in the ACC. And, you know, we're in the top third of the ACC right now, a really competitive conference. And if you come to Haas Pavilion, you'll see an exciting brand of basketball with a lot of scoring and strong defense. And I'm proud of the team. When I'm doing this, I'm like saying something that I don't want people to be able to read my lips. So, you know, I got to hide it from the camera, you know, but my team can hear me. My team can still hear me.
Well, I'll tell you, you know, as on the board of directors for the Alumni Association, my peer was honorary coach Marsha, and so she just texted me a message, and she said, "Are you doing the podcast today?" I said, "We're doing the podcast today." I said, "But what was that experience like?" She said, "Coach Smith is tremendous and has a great connection with the team, and the engagement with the crowd is just unbelievable. And if you're not a fan, and if you haven't been to the game, then you must be living on a different planet, because Cal's women basketball is for real. We thank you."
You know, that everyone rallies behind you. I think you've been here at Cal for quite a while. You get us. And I think everyone just has embraced you 100%. And the way that you have that team playing is just sensational. It's really a sight to see, and we're just so thankful. I was just going to ask, I mean, in all the time that you've been at Cal, I mean, counting your time as an assistant coach as well, what would you say some of your favorite highlights have been in your coaching career at Cal?
Yeah, again, there was some connection with me that I had for Devon A. Hampton. Being able to coach Devon A. Hampton is really special to me. Again, I feel like she's part of the reason why I decided to leave Stanford and come to Cal. And then that Final Four season, that Final Four team, you know, you always remember cutting down nets, and it was just such a magical ride, you know. That was really special. I think my first season as a head coach with Jaylen Brown and Sarah Anastasievska, like, it was just a cool group that was so excited to see me come back and get the head coaching job that I'll always have a special connection with them. And then this team right now, I mean, being the best team that I've coached in my head coaching tenure, sitting at 18-3, getting the first sweep of Stanford since 1986. That win in Haas over Stanford, that's got to be one of the best games ever played there. I mean, we kicked their butt. We really did. And, you know, it was the first win since, I think, 2019 or something. So those are just to mention a few of the highlights, and hopefully there's some more to come with the rest of this season that we'll be talking about down the road.
You were raining threes in from all over the place in that game. That was incredible, especially that one at Haas. And last night, boy, I tell you, I mean, you had it well enough in control, and then
Yeah.
those refs certainly didn't let you leave the farm easily, did they? They really drew it up.
I'm glad you said it and not me. You know, they did shoot 31 free throws, and I was like, there's another team that's going to the basket too.
Yeah.
Keep
it even.
That's what happens on the road, and we're okay fighting for it. We're okay fighting for it, and I think it shows our composure and you know, being extremely resilient, that we were able to hold on to the lead in Maples Pavilion, a place that, you know, we hadn't won in quite some time. So I'm proud of the victory, regardless of the margin.
Well,
absolutely.
Coach, I was going to ask you, you know, you talked about it a little bit in the beginning, but what would you tell a prospective recruit and why they should go to Cal? Why they should, or come to Cal in that way?
I think, you know, the message has been, come here to put your name on something. You know, there are a lot of programs that are, you know, a little bit more established, and they've been to the tournament, they've been to Final Fours more recently than us. But I challenge people to put their name on something instead of joining in, you know, and that's what this group is doing right now. They're putting their name on something. And it's really special when you do that. I also think this is a place where you're going to be valued and appreciated and cared about and respected. And it's not just about basketball. Like, I care about these young women. I try to do everything I can for them. They're not always happy with me, but I know that my intention is pure and something that their parents would appreciate if they could see the day to day and how we show up for their daughters and try to be that second family for them. So I'm really proud of my staff and everyone that helps me support the 15 young women on our team. And I think we'll continue to grow and build this program.
Well, I have one more statement and then two quick questions. One is, I don't know that it's ever been done. And I'm looking for you all to continue to do the great things that you're doing. I'd like to be one of the first people to say that women's basketball, as dynamic and as successful as they've been, and I want to make sure you all see your flowers sooner than later. I'd like to see you all do a rally in the Greek Theater and have folks come see you and the team and recognize you and show their gratitude for the outstanding work that you put in to be where you are today. I can go for the NCAA or whatever, but I want to see this now. That's me, because you deserve that. So I said it first on You Tell the Whole Damn World. I'm telling you, this is what we should do. Jim, I'm talking to you. And then the other piece is of your times as a coach and the experience you've had. What has been your Bear Territory moment? When was the moment where you felt at Cal, where you felt not that you've hit the mark, but that there became this overwhelming, especially someone coming from another school, that you fit in, that you made that connection, that you understood what you saw on television, who you knew from friends, but now you're there and you go, huh.
Yeah. Yeah. So just, my initial days in Bear Territory were very interesting. I told you I had this connection, or wanted to have this connection with Devin A. Hampton, wanted to coach her. When I came on staff, I replaced Kim Hampton, Kim McNeil now, but formerly Kim Hampton. And that was like Dev's coach, right? Like, you have an assistant on staff that you kind of click. And Kim was the Black female on staff, and she left, and I came in, and I wanted this connection. I wanted to build the relationships. I wanted to be more than just a coach. I wanted to be a mentor, a role model, all of these things.
Yes.
So my first days at Cal in the office, I was like, how do you guys get any work done? Because players are constantly coming into the office. What's up? What's up, Charmin? I'm like, hey, I'm working here. That's what I'm used to at Stanford, And so then I learned, like, they come in, close the laptop. Okay. How are you doing? What's going on, Lex? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yes.
For 2 weeks, Devin A. would not talk to me. She was so upset that Kim left, and she just like wouldn't come in and talk to me. So I'm like, man, I really want to coach this kid. And Joanne's like, just give her time, And then 2 weeks in, she comes up to me and she says, what's up, Tissue? And she called me Tissue because my name's Charmin.
Yes.
And that was it. And I was like, hey, Dev, how are you? Like, nice to meet you and everything. And she still calls me Tissue to this day. And it's the most endearing nickname that anyone has ever given me. In elementary school, I hated it and I would cry and people are making fun of me. But when Devin A. Hampton said it, I was like, at least she's calling me something.
Yeah. Amen.
That is when I felt like, okay, I'm going to be all right here. I have the approval of Devin A. Hampton. She's speaking to me. Everything is going to be okay.
Right. And then my last question, and I know we're running on time, and I'm going to kick it back to you, I promise, Rez. But I'm excited. I'm a fan. I got this opportunity. I always see you out and about in the town, wherever I see you. We've run each other. Tell people the relationship you have with your incredible dog.
Hey. So Let's see. Come here, Ghosty. Come here. Ghost is right here. He's always
Stop it.
yeah. So yep, this is Ghost, a big 80-pound Bernedoodle. And he's incredible. He's 4 years old. I got him during the pandemic, and so we're pretty tight. And yeah, he's a beautiful boy, right, Ghosty?
Aw, that he is adorable. Look at that.
That's my guy.
Well, I know we're running real short on time, but just real quickly before we let you go, is there anything you want to tell Cal fans out there? And are there organizations that you'd like to shine a light on and tell people to get out there and to support?
I think, I would just say come to Haas Pavilion. Like, it's an exciting team. We're winning. The ACC is new and exciting as well. We've got North Carolina coming into town. Pitt, some really fun teams. And I think this team deserves to play in front of a big crowd. And I'm challenging more people to show up to Haas Pavilion to see Cal women's basketball. I feel like if you come and see a game, you will continue to want to come back. Our players are in the community. They're engaging with people. They're a great group of role models for young kids. And I hope that people will make the trip to see us play. In terms of organizations, just for this program right now, I don't know if you guys know, but we are in desperate need of a new locker room, and we are working right now to fundraise for that so that we can have it for next season. So that's the big ask, the big ploy right now is help this team out. Our facilities are way below the standard of other ACC schools and what they have. And we want to be able to compete and get recruits and, be at an elite level, and it takes resources. So really hoping that people can help us out.
Absolutely. Well, I can tell you for sure in my book, and I'm sure Ahmad's book, you are the best show in town. And Cal fans, you should definitely get your butts out there to Haas Pavilion and watch these women play because they are sensational.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you so much. And Ahmad, any last things before we let her go?
You know it. You tell the story. You tell women's basketball, they are their territory.
Hey, I like that. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And go Bears.
All right.
Go Bears. And yeah, one last thing, just got to say real quickly, because my old high school buddy, Nate Stallhut, our mutual friend, told me, that I got to get you on the show because you would be a fantastic guest. And he was not lying. So thank you again for all your time here today, Coach. Good luck the rest of the season.
Yep.
And go Bears.
Go Bears. Thank you.
Thank you. Charmin Smith was a wonderful guest. And wow, what a coach. We are so lucky to have her here at Cal. Please show your support for the women's basketball team and make it to Haas this season to watch them play. They're incredible. That's going to do it for this week's episode. I say it every week, but we really do appreciate all of you out there listening and watching. If you're enjoying these podcasts, please tell all your friends to subscribe. The more viewers and listeners we have, the easier it will be for other Cal fans to find us. And if you're just listening to these podcasts, you can also watch us on YouTube. You can find us under Tell the Whole Damn World. Next week, we sit down with two prominent members of the Cal women's gymnastics team, Maya Lazan and MJ Frazier. They helped lead the Golden Bears to a number 2 final ranking last season, and once again have Cal firmly in the conversation as a potential national champion. They're absolutely sensational gymnasts, and we're excited to have the chance to get to know them better and hear about how they approach the challenge of competing at the highest level while being student athletes at Cal. Before we go, if you'd like to drop us a note to say hi or pass along any suggestions, we would love to hear from you. Just drop us an email at tellthewholedamnworld@gmail.com. And finally, I'd like to remind you about ACTS ALS. You can learn more about their mission to help turn ALS into a treatable disease by visiting actsals.org. That's AXEALS.org. If you're able, please consider making a donation or buying some merchandise. See you next week. As Doctor Who famously says, we're all stories in the end. Make it a good one. What stories do you want to share? We want you to both tell the whole damn world about it. Go Bears!